Welcome to the R.E.S.T movement, where we release every single thing. I just got back from a funeral, a homegoing celebration, a time where you come together to celebrate someone who we've lost. It's a time where we rally around those who have been impacted by the loss. It's a time where we show up to just be present. A time where we give kind words and we honor the life and the legacy that they've left for us. For some, it's a very difficult time. And so what do? You provide food. Sometimes you provide financial support. And sometimes just the ministry of presence is important. And it got me thinking, because most of us only think of grief in one type of way. But there are many types of ways we grieve. And I wonder, are you experiencing grief and you don't know it? Well, let's get into it. That's the conversation today. The grief no one talks about. And perhaps you've been thinking that something's wrong with you. And it's not. You're just grieving. So let's get it. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now let's get into it. Y'all know what time it is? It's Freedom Fridays. Fridays. It's Freedom Fridays. Fridays. It's Freedom Fridays. Fridays. It's Freedom Friday. So don't you want to come in here and get free? Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the R.E.S.T Movement podcast, where we help you release every single thing. I am your host, Renee Young Blake, the Nugget Dropper, and over here to my right
is Sonia, the soul.
We are excited. We've got another hot topic to talk about. I want you to think about some times when you feel emotional, you're feeling exhausted or disconnected, and it's not because something's wrong with you. It just might be what we're talking about tonight. What we're talking about tonight, oftentimes when people think of this topic, they're thinking about it in one way. I think that there are more ways we need to talk about this topic because I found that I'm experiencing it myself. So today we're talking about the grief nobody prepares you for. This is grief where nobody's bringing you, you know how when somebody dies in your family, people are bringing over food, they bring you flowers, they're calling you. This is the kind of grief nobody's calling. Nobody's checking for you. You're not even checking for yourself because you don't even really realize that you're experiencing grief. Mm-hmm. And I shared when I stopped working that I was grieving not doing hospice anymore. But I can tell y'all that grief went away pretty quickly when I didn't have any more stress. So that's not the grief I'm talking about for me. I have an example for me, but it is the kind of grief that I want to talk about tonight. Most of the time, we only think about when we lose somebody through death as grief. I remember as a hospice nurse, we always had to deal with anticipatory grief. And because people were expecting that their loved one was going to pass away, they were anticipating that loss and how that would feel and, you know, how they're going to deal with it. And some of them grieved really heavily while their loved one was still alive, just anticipating.
Yeah.
But we want to talk a little more deeply today about this painful grief that happens when we don't really talk about it. And so we want to just open up the conversation because I think it's important. I think it's important for us to recognize that there are more ways that we experience grief that we don't talk about, and that's why we're bringing up this topic. So just remember, loss is what happens to you, but grief is the component that happens inside of you. So name the loss, but what does that loss do inside of you? That's your grief point. And that's when we're talking about grief. So any loss can lead us to grief. When you hear the word grief, was that the only way you thought about it?
No.
What comes to your mind?
No. Relationships. Whether it is a close friend, a spouse, or someone you were dating, anticipating a future with.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things I think of the most, because those are the ones that you talk about that don't get the flowers or the dinner, right?
You might get a call from your girlfriend. You all right, girl?
You'll get a call. That's true. And those calls are so priceless because you can sit on there and listen to me and go, oh, okay. I'm gonna be fine.
We haven't had one of those in a long time.
Hey, Jesus.
Jesus. We growing up a little bit.
Yes.
So you mentioned one that I was going to mention, which was divorce, but one that I think that most people don't consider is the empty nest. When you think about yourself as a mom and all of the things you used to do with your children and how, involved you were in their life. And, we were just talking about that, the grandchild starting to get a little older and start becoming a teenager, and they want to spend less time in your face. They want to talk with your friends. So you go through that part. So you get the start of that grief because now they don't want to be a part of everything. Like, mommy. Now it's like, what? Okay, I'm coming. They don't really want to have the engagement. But what happens when they actually grow up? They go to college, but they come back home in between semesters. But then after a while, they start feeling themselves, now I'm going to stay on campus, for the summer, and they don't come home. Mm-hmm. Then they decide either they're going to live somewhere else or they're just moving out of your house. And then the grief of, it's like you've lost your position. You don't know what to do with yourself.
And there's so many levels of grief as a parent and a grandparent because they completely depend on you for a certain amount of time. Then they grow and start having their little friends, but they're still dependent on you.
Wait a minute. Why do we do that?
What?
We say little friends when they had their little friends, like their little friends 20, 35 years old.
Really little, like elementary. That's what I'm thinking. Because I'm thinking
we do that.
Yeah,
we do. Like,
the friends.
They went out with their little friends.
Because we're the big friend. We're the important one. And that's another point in speaking about friends is as they grow older and mature, you seem to cultivate a friendship with them. But they have a separate friendship with you than they do their other friends, right? So yeah, you grieve the different phases of their from childhood to teenagers to adulthood till they become parents. And like you said, okay, so she don't need me. She got her own life. She's got her own way of doing things. She's not asking me all the questions anymore. And I don't want to interject. So I have to wait.
You don't want to interject, or you try your best not to interject because you want to interject.
Yeah, you want to, but you learn not to.
Zip your lips.
Yeah, you learn not to because that's an annoyance to them, right? And then
for some empty nesters, their children not only leave the nest, but they leave the nest and move. They just go to a whole different state, whole different country, and you don't get to see them. You don't get to see your grandchildren. You fortunately have all of that right here in the DMV. So they are still close, but they have their own lives. They have their own friendships. They have their own spouse that now they confide everything in. They don't call you and tell you everything anymore, you know?
That's true.
So the empty nest, we talked about friendship breakups. And I was sharing with Sonia before we got on, and I may have shared this in previous episodes, I don't know. But one of the things that I have been asking God to do, I know this much I shared. I've asked him to reveal to me who's supposed to be on this journey so that I can stop opening myself up to everybody, because I'm always welcoming people into my circle. And I remember you saying to me that that's not a bad thing, that I give everybody an A, and you kind of got to work yourself down to an F. So everybody got an A, so everybody come on in. But I've been asking God to help me have better discernment, and to see so that I'm not expending so much energy in relationships that was not what God intended for me. And it almost makes me sometimes feel cold because I ask him, but then when he shows me stuff and there's a rift in a relationship, I'm not as broken as I used to get when people walk away from me.
You're feeling cold because of who you are.
Right.
But if God is showing you that, he's also going to give you the tools to know how to navigate that situation. So it's not that you're being cold. You're just, this is new to you.
Absolutely. It is.
It's new.
It is new to me. It is.
You're used to just taking it and trying to figure it out, or harboring, hurt feelings. And you have taken it, you have a new stance. You have a new attitude, and that's a good thing.
And what I've also learned through this process is what you release, God will replace.
It's so true.
If you hold on to stuff and you keep trying to hold on to things that he didn't want you to hold on to, or things that are not just for this season. And it doesn't mean that there won't be other seasons or other times when relationships come back, if they come back. But when God shows you what he shows you, you just have to embrace what he shows you. Another example of some losses that lead to grief is retirement.
Job loss. Retirement.
And as happy as I will tell you, if I share a personal story, my personal story would be not having a regular check.
That's what you were grieving?
That's what I was grieving. But I'm kind of over it now.
Okay.
But I did have a friend who owns a business say to me, one of the things that she finds out with most people who become entrepreneurs, the first thing that they struggle with is not that steady income. And they usually, get fearful. And I shared with her, I was like, well, what I could tell you is what scares me is I'm not scared. What scares me is I have no fear. Because God told me to, he told me to quit. So I'm totally dependent on whatever he says and whatever he does. And I believe he's going to make a way. I trust him over everything. So.
And it also helps that you have a very supportive husband. And God knew every part of your story. So he knew that he wasn't going to put you in a place for you to drown.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody throw a life jacket out there, because he can't swim, I can't swim, so we both be in trouble. Loss of health. This hits home because I often would have to say to patients, caregivers, when their family member is being real stubborn, being difficult, but then I show up and all of a sudden they doing what they're told. And I would say to them, the problem is you don't recognize that they've lost their independence. And now you've come in as the daughter or as the son, now trying to tell the mom or the father what to do when they were the parent. And the last thing that they have the ability to say is no, or, just object for a moment just because they don't want you telling them what to do. Because they've lost their health. They've lost their independence. They've lost their ability to do what they want to do when they want to do it. Maybe I want some scrambled eggs this morning, but you want to make me a fried egg because you're not asking me. Or maybe it's not the way I wanted it cooked. It's so many things, and it's difficult.
That makes me cognizant to be more aware, because I had to do for both of my parents, at the end stages of their life. And my father, he was more alert, so he was more rebellious. And he would have a box of snacks of all the things he's not supposed to eat. And some people would say, "Fine, just let him. He's 80 or whatever, you know." And I would get so frustrated because I want to save you. I want you to live another 100 years, you know. But then it got to the place where he was unhappy with my visits because
Like, oh my God, here come the ball and chain again.
Yeah, the warden is here. The warden is here.
Let me
Hide the
let me
box.
tell you something funny. When I bought my house, it had a handicap ramp on it. And I found the house with my real estate agent, and I called my dad and I told him the specs of the house. He's like, "Oh, that's the one you need because those rooms sound large. Yeah, you need to get, that's the house you need to get." So I said, "Well, I'm meeting her over there. I want you to come see it." So I said, "Oh, Daddy, they have a wheelchair ramp. So I can move you. Listen, you get old, I can move you in here with me." He said, "Oh no, I won't. Send me to a nursing home."
Oh,
He said, "I can stay with you." And my mother laughed. She said, "Y'all too much alike. Y'all couldn't be in the same house." I said, "Yeah, because I will make you take." I was saying all kinds of stuff. He said, "Yeah, that's exactly why I'll be checking myself right on into a nursing home." So, but when I think about his surgery, you know, my dad had this open heart surgery procedure. He had open heart surgery before, but this was some kind of laser surgery that cuts you across your side and it lasers the muscle of your heart, and it's supposed to regenerate blood vessels to grow. His heart never recovered. And I remember when I saw the scar, and he had a surgery on Monday. They kept, you know, trying to get him off the ventilator to see if his heart would kick back in. It just wasn't. And by Thursday, he was gone. But when I saw that scar, I said, "Oh, Fred saw that scar." He said, "Jimmy Jam, I am not living with her. She not coming to take care of me. Just like, I'll take heaven, God." That was his choice. I'll take door number one. I'm not living with her. So I said that within myself, although the sadness of seeing him gone, I laugh about the fact that that Negro would have not come to live with me because of that. Well, he would not have let me take care of him. And he was a man's man. And I knew that that would have been horrifying for him to not to be able to do stuff. So when I say it was huge, it was a huge wound. And it would have taken him some time. He was a diabetic, you know. It would have taken that time to heal.
yeah.
And he wouldn't have been able to do things. And so I know God called him home because he know his son. And he know his son would have drove all of us crazy because he would have been stubborn as I don't know what. He wouldn't have done what he was supposed to do. And my poor mother would have lost all her hair trying to get him to do what he's supposed to do. So that makes me laugh just thinking about the loss of health. Again, the loss of health along with the loss of independence. I even thinking of loss of health, I think now getting back to working out more routinely, and I'm starting to see the difference in getting some of my balance back, because I used to love working out. And I mean, you know, I was flexible and all that. Now I'm like, God dang, what done happened to this body? Just if I get on the floor and get an exercise, Amira was laughing at me the other day because I got on the floor. I was pampering her for her birthday, and I was painting her toenails. And she said, yeah, you got on the floor. Well, who gonna help you get up? I'm gonna have to go get Pop. Don't count me out, little girl. Watch how I get up. It took me a little moment, but I got up off that floor. She was in shock. And I got back on the floor again and was able to get up even faster. So I laugh at that, but I also realize that there are moments that I'm frustrated, like, gosh, where did this body, what happened? Like, what happened that I'm not able to do the things I could be able to get on the floor and just jump right up?
Yeah.
So I'm speaking to this body now that this body is going to be able to get up back off the floor quickly, be able to run up some stairs without any problems. I'm getting my zhuzh back. I told you I keep watching and seeing. I'm gonna get the zhuzh back because I'm not gonna have grief that I'm experiencing now, knowing that I can't do the things that I used to be able to do, because there are some 61-year-olds who out here rocking it.
So when you talk about grieving health, I think about my mindset is right now I have two 2-year-old grandchildren and even my 8-year-old grandson and definitely Charlie, my 4-year-old. They want me to get on the floor and do the train track, Thomas the Train. We do kickball, soccer, different things. And so um, it reminds me to do better because I don't want to get to the place where I can't get on the floor and can't get up, even though I'm sure this isn't going to last long. But in terms of them wanting me to get on the floor with them, but I like the fact that I can do it, and sometimes it takes me a little bit more to get up than others. And then I'm like, oh, Sonia, get it together. And so I can say in terms of grieving health, that's something I don't want to have to do. So those grandchildren really help me try to keep it together.
I don't know where I heard it twice. I heard it the other day with somebody, and then I heard it on my coaching call today, talking about in order for you to make things happen, you have to be desperate for it. And so thinking of that, you're desperate to be there for your grandchildren. You're desperate to be able to make memories with them, and not just the memories you want to make, but the ones they're asking you to make with them.
Exactly.
And for them, it's you being able to get on the floor and roll around with them or play games with them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see beyond that because they're not old enough yet. And so to be able to do that, you're desperate to keep yourself right, keep your body right, make better choices.
Yes.
And that was the same thought I had when I said, you got to get back in your routine. You got to get up and you got to work out every day. Now you don't have any excuse. Before you had to fit it in. Sometimes so exhausted from the night before you can't even get up. You get up and pray and do your word in the morning, but as soon as you finish that, get up and get busy. And so being able to do that, and sometimes work out before I go to bed, just because I ate late and I'm like, you ain't going to bed on this. You're gonna have to do something. Ride your bike, ride your stationary bike. And so yeah, that desperate desire to just improve all of me. And even the way that I talk to my body when something is bothering me. I talk to the limb. I talk to my hands were hurting the other day, and I know it was because I had some sugar that I wanted. And I don't mean to kiss sugar. I had some too much sugar, and my body quickly responds. And it's like, why you do that to yourself? You already know it's either going to attack your knee or your hands are going to hurt so bad that you can't even lift up something like this without almost dropping it because you'll have shooting pain just from eating sugar. Yeah. Sugar is killing us.
It's poison.
So, I'm telling you. So
it's
if
true.
you're having some issues, check your sugar intake and watch how quickly your body responds. If you go back and even look at a study, and this is off topic, but if you go back and even look at a study when things shifted, when they started talking about low-fat foods, they were saying the food is low-fat, but they were adding sugar so that you would become addicted to the thing, like these sugary cereals and all that stuff, when our bodies need fat. Our bodies need salt, but they told us low salt, low sodium, and low fat, which is what the things we needed, and they added sugar so we will become addicted to this stuff. And now all of us are sick. Yeah. All of us have illnesses that God never intended.
That's so true.
So loss of health, loss of independence, ministry disappointments, and boy, have I had enough of those in my lifetime.
They call it
church hurt. Or just disappointment in general. You have an assignment that God has given you and you envision the assignment, or at least you think the vision you envision is the vision he gave you, and when it doesn't come to fruition the way you expected, or somebody you're supposed to be working with in ministry disappoints you, as you said, church hurt. Somehow, as Christians, somehow we forget that we are sinners saved by grace. We forget that the same people you call yourself looking at sideways, you were the person who was on the other side of that and somebody else was looking at you sideways. We don't have any grace.
And nothing for no reason.
We don't have grace
Absolutely
for anything,
nothing.
which is just
Pop off.
dumb.
Just get upset and angry and shut down.
We grieve dreams that never happen. You know, you get to a certain age and you're looking at your bucket list and you've only accomplished 3 things with a list of 20. You know, and you start feeling like, man, you know, now I'm at this age, I won't be able to do that. I remember somebody telling me that they wanted to go in the military, and I was shocked. They were in their 50s when they told me this, and I was like, what? And they let their parents convince them not to. And that was one of the things she said, that she wished she hadn't listened, because she always, and I was shocked. I'm like, you want to go in the military? I would have never thought that. Well, she let her parents talk her out of it, and she thought of all of the things that she could have done, you know, but, you know, at a certain age, they're not going to accept you in there. So you get that revelation that you should have went on with your dreams. That was one that really was too late. You couldn't do anything about it. Financial setbacks can cause grief. Relationships that change, we talked about that, can cause grief. Grief is not just the loss of a person, it's the loss of what was, what could have been, and what you thought would be. Let's talk about the losses nobody acknowledges. These are the losses. They don't send you no flowers. They ain't making you no casseroles, you know, making sure you eat for a week, and they just keep bringing food and keep visiting. Women are often expected to absorb these losses and then just keep it moving. The child who moved away, we talked about. The parent who is mentally gone before physically gone. So many people who have family members who have dementia, and the difficulty. I've seen some recent posts that have really blessed my heart. Some people might look at it. A lot of people are posting their journeys with their family member that has dementia, and showing the funny sides of having a family member, you know, showing some of the crazy things that the family member does, or how certain things they remember. Like, there's this one woman who loves to dance, and you walk in, if you start dancing, she boogieing too. And she can't remember her name all the time or remember who you are, but there's one thing she always remember. Put on some music, put on a certain jam, and she's jamming. So seeing that, and seeing that people have discovered, and hopefully it's not clickbait, people have discovered that even though that they don't have the mind that they always had, they still have value. They're still here. And as difficult as it may be, you get to have your parent, even if it's not the parent you knew. This parent is giving you new life, you know, giving you a different journey every day. And when you change your perspective and how you care for them, it really becomes joy for you and them, because you're no longer trying to make them be who they once were. You are meeting them where they are and appreciating that, you know, they don't know they're confused. They don't know what's happening. They're long past the point of, you know, I'm forgetting, I'm not remembering things. They're not connected to that anymore. So making good use of the time you have with them has really been blessing me, and watching and seeing family members really showing how life is with caring for a parent.
Yeah.
You know, and you becoming the parent to the parent. Not easy.
Well, and I can talk a little bit. You haven't been through this, but I'm divorced, and so there's different stages of grieving in that area. You grieve. You grieve traditions. You know, the things that you were used to doing. You grieve the financial stability. You grieve what you thought your future looked like, or what you expected your future to be like. You grieve the finality of what was supposed to be forever. Um, And, you grieve that what looked like may have been your person is not your person. But you get through it. It takes time, but you have to also be honest with yourself about those things.
A lot of what you just said almost sounds like many of the things we talked about, that nest being empty. We say empty nest is usually related to children, but now this person is gone. It's like it's empty. Even with the children, there's a certain dynamic because that other person is gone, the person that you shared this responsibility with, the person that you can count on. You take care of this, I'll take care of that. Or today you take care of that and I'll take care of this. You don't have that other adult in the house. It's like you and baby talk all day or children talk. I just want to decompress with an adult in the house, but you don't have any of those things.
It's true.
So yeah, that's hard. That's a hard one. Again, that the marriage that exists but no longer feels the same. Before you even get to the divorce, something is happening and I don't know what's happening and you're not communicating. You're saying everything is okay and then all of a sudden everything's not okay because now you're telling me I want a divorce. But you can sense something is not the same. And you should grow with one another. You're supposed to. Every time we're not going to be the people we were when we got married. Physically, we're not going to be the same person. Hopefully, nobody stays the same. But you have to be committed to grow together. And I might be changing at rapid speed right now, and then I start having warp speed, and then you might have been warped, and now you're speeding up. But either way, we're supposed to support that. Exactly. But when there's a breakdown, it's a loss. When you have that loss, you grieve. Some people are happy the divorce is happening because they've been miserable. But even in that, you still gonna miss something.
Yeah, there's some grief.
There's gonna be something, even if what you're missing is just being mad all the time.
Which is because
you know what I'm saying.
Having the attitude.
I'm every time I see them, I'm mad. I just want them to leave, and then as soon as they leave, you don't know what to do with yourself because you spend your days mad.
Yeah.
Now you're grieving like, what do I do? I don't know, because you've been angry all these years because you felt stuck. Now they're gone and you still stuck because you haven't dealt with the loss, and it's going to lead you into grief. So I think both of us are going to talk about personal stories, but I think we kind of just weaved our personal stories in the middle of our conversation. So I think we'll stop here. And maybe I'll ask this question. Have you ever realized later that what you were feeling was actually grief and not something else?
Yeah, I think loneliness. Or if you can equate that to grief, because you have this emptiness, right? And it makes you sad, and you have to really you have to have a really strong circle, and you have to have people who you're very transparent with to help you navigate that, because loneliness can have you reach out in areas that God didn't tell you to, right? And so you have to be really careful.
And that goes right back to when you release something, or when you're trying to release something, ask God to replace it. And you're not replacing it with a person. You're not replacing it as if what you're feeling does not exist, but you don't want to keep that gaping hole open for too long, because that's how that sadness then turns into depression, not being able to get up, not being able to function, being exhausted all the time. All of those can be signs of grief. You're just tired, you're exhausted, you have mental fog. It's because you're not dealing with that underlying stuff.
And you have to. And just because you lose someone, you doesn't mean that you don't move forward. You have to keep moving, because if you don't, you will be in a very bad place. You'll be stuck. And the longer you stay there, the harder it is to get out.
And the problem is, most of the time we don't see ourselves stuck. We just keep it moving, keep it rolling. And we're not identifying that there are behaviors that we're exhibiting that really is we're stuck and we don't know it.
Yeah.
So we'll stop here. And we're glad that you hung out with us for this first part of this episode.
We are
talking about the grief nobody talks about. And we're here to talk about it today. We're here to just open up the conversation. But I hope you have subscribed. I hope you have liked this episode. I hope you're commenting and you're sharing. It helps us expand our territory.
Indeed, it does.
And when you sow into somebody else, guess what you do? You reap the harvest. And so we're asking you to sow into us by subscribing. We're asking you to share and make some comments. Let us know what you're feeling. Let us know what's going on in your world. Because whatever you're experiencing, somebody else is too. If you've overcome something, it will help somebody else. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to help others get through some things that we're experiencing in our own lives at the same time, but we still are living this life of freedom, because what we do is we talk about it. We don't just hold stuff in. So we love you. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. So we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining us. Bye. Thank you for watching the R.E.S.T Movement Podcast. Remember, keep breathing, keep believing, keep becoming. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. See you next Friday.